highly captivating video was released on July 15, featuring an insightful speech by Igor Girkin. During his address, Girkin provides an evaluation of the current situation on the front lines and sheds light on the evolving political landscape in Russia. Initially, he notes that the situation may give the impression of being static, with no apparent progress on the front lines. However, he astutely emphasizes that this perception is deceiving. Despite the seemingly stable facade, the Ukrainian offensive continues, and Ukraine has found ways to breach, infiltrate, and exert pressure on the Russian army, wearing it down. Girkin emphasized two primary areas of movement: the Zaporizhzhia front and the vicinity of Bakhmut. According to his analysis, these regions currently witness the most concentrated and active operations by the Ukrainian armed forces. Furthermore, he highlighted a notable shift in Ukrainian military tactics. Rather than launching frontal assaults with large formations, they have adopted a more strategic approach. Girkin explained that Ukrainian forces are employing a comprehensive strategy of artillery strikes, meticulously pounding Russian units and divisions, effectively blending them with the terrain. He underscored the significant arsenal at the disposal of the Ukrainian military, particularly an abundance of high-precision missiles. These munitions are deployed with lethal accuracy, systematically obliterating Russian trenches, bunkers, and artillery positions. He states that the Ukrainian side eliminates every last person and piece of equipment that resists the Ukrainian army before advancing with Ukrainian soldiers. As per his analysis, Ukraine no longer conducts large-scale, mass attacks as they are deemed entirely futile. Girkin explains that sending 4 tanks or 40 tanks forward would yield the same outcome, with only greater losses incurred. Currently, the Ukrainian forces employ a tactical approach, utilizing small assault groups. They first identify Russian firing positions, strongholds, and artillery emplacements. Subsequently, Ukrainian artillery and precision-guided missiles target these locations, effectively neutralizing them. This strategic process clears the territories, enabling the Ukrainian military to advance. Although this Ukrainian tactic leads to the attrition of Russian forces and produces tangible results.
The enemy is targeting our headquarters, reserve positions, artillery emplacements, and firing points that engage the advancing Ukrainian forces.
As a result, the Ukrainian armed forces are pushing forward, albeit at a slow pace without any significant breakthroughs observed yet. Importantly, Russia seems to lack a substantial response capability due to insufficient long-range artillery. A recently leaked report by former General Popov reveals the absence of effective counter-battery measures among the Russian forces. Their guns have limited range, and their radars struggle to timely detect incoming Ukrainian projectiles. Consequently, Russia finds itself unable to mount a robust counteroffensive. The employment of Lancet drones is one of the few options utilized by Russia. However, their effectiveness is compromised, as these drones often fail to reach their intended targets, and their high cost restricts their widespread use.
It does sound quite alarming that after a year and a half of war, the Russian Federation may deploy significantly fewer soldiers and, in certain areas, possess less combat equipment than what is commonly referred to as Ukraine.
The situation regarding personnel in the Russian armed forces on this particular front is growing increasingly challenging. Girkin emphasizes the urgent need for a new mobilization effort. Regrettably, Russia is well aware of the situation and conditions within the Ukrainian forces. Even on secondary fronts, the Ukrainian troops' overall strength does not surpass 70%. Girkin further highlights the heavy toll of casualties resulting from Ukrainian artillery actions, with Russian soldiers paying the ultimate price. Moreover, there is a dearth of fresh reservists from the rear, and Girkin warns of the dire consequences of such personnel policies for the Russian army. This implies that unless swift measures are taken, the enemy unfortunately stands a chance of breaching the defense along the Zaporizhzhia front. According to Girkin's assessment, the adversary could potentially achieve success within the next 2 to 3 weeks. In essence, Girkin states that the Ukrainian offensive is making slow but successful progress. He even commends the Ukrainian army for their achievements. He highlights that the Russian army's offensive in the Svatov direction is tactically insignificant and unlikely to lead to any breakthrough or further advances. Girkin reveals that the Ukrainian bridgehead on the left bank of the Dnieper near the city of Kherson still exists and even expanding. In contrast, due to severe resource shortages, logistical challenges, and substantial losses in this region, the Russian armed forces have completely abandoned their attempts to eliminate this bridgehead. Girkin expresses dissatisfaction with the ongoing Russian mass assaults on Avdiivka and Mariinka, primarily utilizing prisoners. Almost all of these prisoners have perished. He explains that the prisoners receive no support from artillery or aviation, and their lives are essentially disregarded. In conclusion, Girkin asserts that Ukraine has discovered a method to exert pressure and break the Russian defense by inflicting significant casualties on personnel and equipment. He warns that unless Russia promptly mobilizes and commits all available resources to the front lines, it will inevitably lose the war. He even suggests that, given the current regime, the Russian front may only hold until October. Overall, Girkin's sentiment is profoundly pessimistic. He asserts that the situation on the front lines is heading towards catastrophe, with rebellious factions prevailing within the government and Putin losing control of the situation. He foresees a bleak future for Russia. Conversely, he believes that things are progressing relatively well for Ukraine.